You know, they say that everything's better down where it's wetter. But how can we be sure about that? Hello and welcome back to True Story, the show where we explore any truths behind fairy tales, myths, rumors, legends, and lore. I'm your host, Abraham Bravo, and after that really cheesy intro, let's just jump into the story of The Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid was written by Hans. The Little Mermaid was written by Hans Christian Andersen in Denmark, originally written in Danish. The original title for The Little Mermaid was Den Lille Hovre. I don't know if I said that right, but I'm just trying to copy it as best as I could from what Google Translate was saying. Hans Christian Andersen first published the story on April 7th, 1837. Disney took the story, ran with it, and made a modern take on The Little Mermaid, giving it that little classic fairy tale feel that we've all come to know and love. But when Hans Christian Andersen first wrote the story had a much darker feel to it. Now, if we compare both of the stories, the Disney version and the original Little Mermaid, side by side, we get to see that there are some similarities and a lot of differences. Some of the similarities include the fact that there is a mermaid and merpeople, and that there is a prince who is in need of saving, and that the main character wants to go to the human world. One of the main differences was that in the movie, Ursula was able to convince Ariel to trade her voice for a pair of legs. The only condition was that Ariel had to get a kiss from the prince within 3 days, or her soul would become part of Ursula's collection. But in the story, she had to marry the prince, and she gave up her tongue for a pair of legs. There's also a difference with these legs. In the movie, she could walk normally, and she was very, very fascinated by toes. However, in the story, nobody had told Ariel that walking with legs would feel as if she was walking on shards of glass. Another main difference from the story and the movie is that in the story, the Little Mermaid is never given a name. In the movie, we find out her name is Ariel. Also, in the movie, travel to the surface was forbidden by the king. But in the book, once a mermaid reached the age of 15, they were able to travel to the surface at their leisure. Now we come back to some of the similarities of the story and the movie, being that the Little Mermaid ends up spotting the shipwreck with the prince on board. The Little Mermaid saves the prince in both the story and the movie, and does escape before anyone can see her in both the story and the movie, leaving the prince confused as to who saved him. Now this next part, I'm not sure if it happened in the movie, so feel free to tell me in the comments down below. But in the story, after the Little Mermaid rushes back home to tell her sisters and her grandmother about what just happened with the prince, her grandmother tells her that it would be impossible for her to have a normal life with the prince, as mermaids can live up to 300 years old, and humans have a much shorter lifespan. The only thing is that when a mermaid dies, it's just the end. That's it for them. They turn into sea foam. When a human dies, they go on to live for all eternity in heaven because they have souls. So from that point forward, the Little Mermaid decided that she wanted to become a human so that she could earn a soul. Now regarding the meeting with the Little Mermaid and the Sea Witch, in the movie she's meeting Ursula, which I believe is some sort of sister to her. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not entirely sure about the movie. But in the book, she is a Sea Witch, and she tries to warn the Little Mermaid, telling her that it's only gonna end in sorrow and sadness. She tries to warn her, telling her that it's only going to end very badly and that the consequences are dire, but the Little Mermaid decides that she wants to go through with it. So the witch tells her that she must be the one that the prince marries, or the day after the prince is married, she will turn into sea foam. So after giving up her tongue to the Sea Witch and gaining a brand new pair of legs, she went up to the surface where she was found by the prince. The prince took her in and, well, she was dressed nicely, treated well, and she was treated to a dance by lady slaves. The Little Mermaid started to dance alongside the lady slaves, and she caught the prince's attention. The prince at that point realized that he wanted her to stay with him forever. And they did all sorts of things, riding through the woods, walking, other princely stuff, and she was really happy to be by his side, even though her legs were in agonizing pain. As time went on, the prince found himself in love with the Little Mermaid, but the same kind of love that one would give to a sibling. At this point, it's when the prince decides to tell her that he does care deeply about her, but he wants to find the maiden who saved him that day from drowning. Little does he know that he's already found her. Luckily for the Little Mermaid, the prince had only seen said maiden twice. And during those 2 times, nothing really happened. But after spending so much time with the Little Mermaid, he realized that the fair maiden was starting to be pushed out of his mind and replaced with the Little Mermaid. But as luck would have it, one day the prince's parents decided to send him to get hooked up with a princess from a neighboring kingdom. The prince and the Little Mermaid set sail towards the kingdom with the princess, but the prince was convinced that he was not going to fall for her and that he would end up with the Little Mermaid. Upon arriving to this kingdom, he realized that the princess that he was there to meet was who he believed was the fair maiden that rescued him that night or day, whatever it was. Any and all thoughts of him getting with the Little Mermaid had gone out of his head, and the Little Mermaid was left hopeless and with no choice but to accept fate. It went as far as to her being in attendance at their wedding. That night they were all on the prince's ship, the prince, the princess, and the Little Mermaid, and the Little Mermaid was waiting for sunrise for her to turn into sea foam. That's when her sisters came to save the day, and they told her that they had found a solution to her problem, making her be able to become a mermaid once more. They handed her a dagger and they told her that all she had to do was kill the prince and drip his blood all over her legs. Her fin would come back, and she would just have to jump into the ocean and she would be fine. However, when the Little Mermaid went into the room to do the deed, she laid eyes on him and realized that she couldn't do it. She couldn't bring herself to kill this man, the man that she loved, the man that had ended up falling in love for another woman. So as the sun rose, she threw herself into the ocean, turning herself into sea foam. And that would be the end of that. However, she actually managed to turn into a daughter of the air. I think that's what it is. It's a sort of purgatory where mermaids can go and do good deeds in hope of earning a human soul to move on to the afterlife that we know as heaven. But sometimes doing all these deeds can take up to 300 years. Obviously, the original story written by Hans Christian Andersen is a lot darker than the Disney version that we got in whatever year it was released. But I tend to like the original versions a lot more than I do the Disney versions. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys enjoy the Disney versions over the original versions? Do you guys prefer certain original over Disney? I'd like to know your answers on that one. If there's any specific story that you guys want me to talk about in the near future, or any sort of thing like that, let me know in the comment section down below. If there's anything else you guys want to tell me, any corrections, anything else that I may have missed, also let me know down in the comment section down below. Please subscribe, share this video, because there will be more of these. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. My name's Abraham, and that was a true story.